Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we talk about all things good, the pursuit of the adventure of life. I'm Zach, and we got, one fantastic, colorful, art-filled show today where, we're going to talk about a couple things. However, I can't do this one alone, so as always, I'm calling him up from the bullpen, Rafe. So, Rafe, how are you doing today?
Zach, if you were calling me from the bullpen, I would just run right past the mound, right into the shower, because my arm is still inoperable for that point of view. But my vocal cords still work, and I'm still able to read the script here in front of me. So until a time such that I cannot do that, you're stuck with me here. Zach, it is a wonderful day to be doing a podcast with you. It is wonderful to be listening, to be the source of all that the Bufnagle listeners listen to. You can reach us at bufnagle.com, Insta, Twitter, Apple, we're all over. Zach, we are, how everywhere we are, Zach? The other day I was shoveling my sidewalk, okay? And you know how like if somebody drives the car over the snow before you get a chance to shovel it, that stuff stays behind. Well, I was shoveling, and when I got done shoveling, you know what it said right there in the snow? Listen to the Buff. I mean, we are everywhere, Zach. It is mind-boggling the places we are. Remember, if you're new to our podcast, hey, welcome. We're glad you are here. We ask you to give us 4 episodes and see if we don't give you something to list about, to talk to your friends about. Tell your friends to listen, and you will get a free episode. And subscribe, Zach. I get chocolate pudding, and you get
a bunch of brownies.
All right, it's a good thing. So, Zach, it's a hey, I got to mention this before we're going to go on. I was at church this morning at a new parish that we hadn't been to before, and there was a big stained glass window, and in the stained glass window was this it sounds like a joke, doesn't it? And there was this lady there, and she was like, oh, looking up at the sky, and there's 3 angels. There's like an angel, like it was Saint Michael and Saint Margaret and Saint Catherine, and it was Joan of Arc. And I thought, I said to somebody, you know where I learned about Joan of Arc? Bufnagle, the podcast. And so in case you're wondering about that's episode 62, you can go back and hear that, and you'll learn about St. Michael, St. Margaret, and St. Catherine.
And Joan of Arc.
So there you go. It was Zach, we're everywhere. You just got to keep your eye out. So that's where we are today. How are you?
I'm, a little tired after that welcome and introduction, and yeah. But instead of rambling on like we did in the hour before this, where we talked about none of the things we were supposed to talk about, we're actually going to talk about what we're going to talk about. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a wonderful, art-filled, and colorful topic, which means we're talking about color today, which, in my opinion, is one of your favorite things to talk about, just because I think for you it's so vibrant and playful, and it's this reflection that we get, like, especially, my favorite color is this. It kind of shows the personality side of us. Like, yeah, my favorite color might be gray, but the reason my favorite color is gray because the way it pairs with certain other colors and the contrast and the way it builds and the way it can be used in art in very fine and appreciative ways. But also at the same time, I love yellow because it's bright, it's energetic, it's vibrant. It's all these things that I like to live my life with. So it's the combination of those 2 colors, the combination, the playfulness of that, and just color as a whole, kind of like the insight it gives us into life, which is kind of what we're all about.
Zach, that's a great way to put that. I don't know if other people are like this. I don't know what I would do without color. All right. And so I grew up in an age when
colorblind.
I am colorblind. Okay. So, we will talk about that a little bit. That doesn't mean I don't see color. What it means is I don't see color the way other people see color. All right. And there's a spectrum of color blindness. See what I did there? Spectrum. So that's a thing as well. So it's color is fascinating to me simply because how much we use it now where we didn't use it before. Right. I grew up in an age of black and white TV. And that came to color TV when I was a kid. And black and white photo. Most of the photographs of me when I'm a little kid are black and white, and now color is everywhere. Color printers, color copiers. It is amazing. And not only that, color is just all exciting. And there's really two ways to spell color, Zach. You spell it with the U because you like to pretend you're from like New Zealand or something like that. And I spell it without.
I spell it with a U because why not? Like,
it is more fun. It gives it more flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can spell that two ways too. All right, so color, Zach. Okay, people, what's color? Color is light. All right, it's light at different wavelengths. So light is an electromagnetic wave. All right, so it's just like radio waves or visible light, invisible
Gamma rays,
light,
all the radiation-related science things that I don't understand.
X-rays, like the rays like Ray Charles and Ray Bradbury. Those are different kinds of rays. Okay, microwaves and those kinds of things. All right, so there's lots of different. All right, all of those are components. They're elements of the spectrum, the electromagnetic spectrum.
It's the Charles and Ray.
Charles and Ray Bradbury. Who are your favorite rays?
It's the fact that like I know you prepped for this. You're like, oh, I have to put this down. It wasn't just like an offhanded like side. It was a deliberate note you made, which is always appreciated.
Well, I was listing out the electromagnetic waves, the pieces of the spectrum. And I got to gamma rays, and I went gamma rays, and I thought to myself, gamma rays, yeah, right, and X-rays, and I thought, well, what other kind of rays are there? And immediately I thought of Ray Charles, and then I needed another kind of ray, so I was like, who else is a ray? The devil rays, those are rays, right? Sharks, skates, and rays are chondrichthyes.
All right,
they're cartilaginous fishes. Zach, did I tell you I took a marine biology class?
No. Yesterday?
No, that was like, it was a 3-week in the summer marine biology class, and we spent a week in the classroom and then 2 weeks in Key Largo, Florida, and Sapelo Island, Georgia. It was phenomenally wonderful. If you get a chance to do that, if you're in college, take the summer 3-week marine biology course, learn some stuff about sharks, skates, and rays.
Anyway, back to the main train track today.
Okay, so visible light, though, is just, Zach, it's a piece of the electromagnetic spectrum. It runs from so waves are like, it's interesting. We see waves on the ocean, right? Or we see waves like if you shake a string up and down, you get these waves. And sound, you're listening right now, there are sound waves, but it's just energy. Waves are just energy. And electromagnetic waves are just energy does mean. Zach keeps holding up these little signs. So you get like an electric field and a magnetic field, and electromagnetic field, and they kind of they spawn each other, and they go really fast, and they go like all over the universe, right? But visible light is a piece of the electromagnetic spectrum that's about somewhere from about 380 nanometers to 750 nanometers in wavelength. Now, a nanometer, Zach, I'm sure you're like, what exactly is a nanometer?
It's a meter that's nanoed.
It's the grandmother meter. Okay, it's nanometer, right? Right?
Wow.
No.
Okay.
So you got your base units in metric, right? And if they get big, they get named by powers of 10 to the third. Okay, so you go from so when you get smaller, you get milli, like millimeter, right? That's 10 to the minus third meter. Micro is 10 to the minus sixth. Nano is 10 to the minus ninth. Right? You're probably wondering 10 to the minus 12th is what? Well, that's pico.
Pico de Gallo.
And that's that's exactly where it comes from. All right, it's really finely chopped up.
Gallo.
It's very, very small de Gallo. Okay, it's pico de Gallo. It's 10 to the minus 12th Gallos is what it is. Right, and then you go the other direction, you get like kilo, and then mega and giga and tera and peta.
And like those are all the things you see with like data management, stuff like that. Oh, this has a gigabyte of storage, and it's a reference to that. But there's some other big sizes out there as well.
Yeah, the one I always like to use after peta. Peta is 10 to the 15th. Right, so we can go from 10 to the 15th down to 10 to the minus 12th. That's like 27 orders of magnitude. I think if you can't describe this universe with 27 orders of magnitude, you don't deserve it. Except there's one guy, Zach, who's off the charts. All right, the great one. If you ever really need to go big, you got to go to Gretzky. All right. And so that's, it goes mega, giga, tera, peta, Gretzky. All right. And that is the final arbiter. Nothing's bigger than Gretzky.
It's like the same thing with the grading scale. You got your magna cum laude, magna sum laude, and then magna cum Gretzky. Like, you're the best of the best of the best. Sir.
That's exactly right. So that's okay. So that's how the scale goes. Okay. So nanometers are 10 to the minus ninth meters. So you're looking
really small,
really, really tiny, but that doesn't mean they're not there. It doesn't mean they're not powerful. All right. The wavelength, and you can do this thing where the wavelength and frequency are inversely related. So if the wavelength is really short, the frequency is really fast. All right. So, and there's a formula that relates them through the speed of light. So that's like somewhere between 790 terahertz and 400 terahertz. Now remember, tera, giga, mega, kilo. Okay. Tera is 10 to the 12th. Nano is 10 to the minus ninth. You got 3 times 10 to the 8th in there. It gets, but you know what? You can figure it out with your calculator. Okay. So we're talking a piece of the electromagnetic spectrum that makes our eyes work. Okay, so the light comes off of wherever it comes from,
and it goes off.
Yeah, typically reflects, but doesn't always reflect. Zach, if I have a candle burning there, the candle's not reflecting; it's just producing. And there's a difference, and then we're going to get to that difference between producing light of a color and reflecting light of a color. Those are two different things. And when I was a little kid, no one ever told me. The reason we're doing this, Zach, is this is one of those things that no one ever told me when I was a little kid, and I've had to make it up. I've made all this up. Well, with a little help from my friends. Okay, like Gretzky and Ray Charles. All right, so that's.
So this is what we do when you're out in public.
Yeah, this is what the lockdown has taken on new meaning since we had this podcast. All right, so,
that's actually why we have our lockdown. They were prepping for the rise of the buff. Anyways,
okay, so you've heard of the Roy G Biv, right? These are the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And there's some discussion. People are like, I don't even really know what indigo is, other than like my blue jeans are indigo, apparently. And did you know that?
Wouldn't they be blue jeans?
Well, they should be indigo. Yeah, they should be blue. Okay, but indigo is this color that's kind of in there. And people back when people discovered this stuff, they always wanted it to have bigger meaning than it had. All right, so having 7 colors is really nice because 7 is one of these magic numbers. It's prime, we know that, and because we've talked about wonderful things about 7. So if you do Roy G Biv, and not only that, if you have Roy G Biv, he needs a vowel in there. Okay, so they dropped in the I, so it's Roy G Biv.
Yeah, but right? You don't have Ray. It's Roy instead of Ray.
It should be Roy G Biv. We're gonna have to rename orange. Well, we're gonna get to that. We'll be able. Okay. There's something coming up. We'll be able to change Roy G Biv to Ray G Biv in honor of Ray Charles. All right. So the R stands for red, and the V is like violet. Okay. And if you go past that, if you go out, and you can't do it with your eyes, but the spectrum goes out that way. You can go past red to infrared, and you can pass violet to ultraviolet. Okay. And then, so the red is a longer wavelength. Okay, the red is a longer wavelength, and the blue is a shorter wavelength. All right, or vice versa. The red is a low frequency, and the violet is a high frequency. Okay, now because these are waves, Zach, they behave just like sound waves, except you can't hear them.
Well, you visually experience them.
You visually, right? Okay, but they also do this thing, like if you're out there, like Zach. When you get chased by the cops, right? Okay, and the sirens, the siren's going. When the siren is coming at you, it has a higher pitch. And when then you're hiding in the bushes and the car goes by you, it goes, and then it drops, okay? The sound drops. You get a Doppler effect, and you hear that when an engine is revving and roaring, and it makes a whining sound as it comes by. It goes, and it drops as it goes away.
Yep.
Right? When it's coming at you, those waves are compressed. They come at you faster than they would if it was stationary. So to the person in the car, the wave is leaving the siren. The sound wave is leaving the siren at a certain frequency. But because it's coming at you, they are getting to you faster, so it sounds higher. But then when you're in the bushes and the car drives by and you have escaped and now the car's going away, that sound since it's moving away, is those waves are farther apart now, and the sound is lower. You get a lower frequency. Okay, light does the same thing. Okay, so if you have like, oh, I don't know, a star that is way out there in space, okay, and that star is moving toward you, then the waves that come toward you are compressed. You get a shorter wavelength, you get a higher frequency, and they appear bluer. Right? And if the star is moving away from you, the wavelengths look longer, and therefore they look redder. Okay. Now astronomers call this a redshift. Okay. And this is how they can tell that this is amazing, Zach. We can tell that the universe is expanding because those stars look redder than they should look if they were sitting still, based upon what we know is inside them. Okay, that is astounding that they measure the redshift. Okay, and we always used to make this joke that when I was, I'm on my bike, when I'm riding at you, I look a little blue. When I'm riding away, I look a little bit red because I'm moving so fast, right?
Yeah.
That's a joke. Okay, right, but you can always pretend you're really fast. Yeah, so you should get a shirt, Zach, that's blue on the front and red on the back. So when I'm running at you, you look blue and then red.
Well, like I said, you need new jokes.
Okay, all right, anyway. All right, so colors have Doppler effects just like sound does, okay? And now you probably won't see that because you have to have really fancy computers and spectrometers to measure that sort of thing with colors, but that doesn't mean that doesn't happen, okay? And the wave principle there is all over colors and lights, and that was a wonderful advancement that science made. All right, so the way your eye, though, Zach, sees the color is that there are little pigments, the little chemicals in your eyes that I guess I'll use the word activated. When the light hits them, they kind of vibrate. They do a little thing, they do a little dance, okay? And your optic nerves pick that up and send a signal to your brain that said, hey, this chemical is jiggling, all right? And this other chemical is jiggling this much, and this one's jiggling that much, and that one's jiggling. So therefore, we must be looking at this color or this collection of colors, right? And my brain is going to interpret that as whatever color it is. So all those pigments have a range of values at which they are activated, but they're activated more strongly at certain values than at others. Okay, and immediately you can see, I'll bet that's how colorblindness works, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, so since I'm colorblind,
I was also thinking another thing, but I know we're going to get to that later, so I'm going to hold that.
You can hold that question
because I actually kind of know that stuff for the future.
Well, we're going to get there, but so that's how colorblindness works. So I have either, and I wasn't able to look this up, and I wasn't able to call my brother. He knows all this stuff, but I was figured it's just easier to talk about it than actually ask him a question. So it's since I have a faulty X chromosome, which carries the gene for that pigment, okay, and that means I carry that's a colorblindness. It's a colorblindness gene, but really it's a faulty pigment gene, right? And what that means is I either don't produce any or I don't produce enough of one of those pigments that helps me differentiate between red and green. And you may be like, how can you not tell the difference between red and green? Well, it's not really that I can't tell the difference between red and green. It's just that when there are little bits of red against a lot of green, it's difficult to distinguish that. When I was a kid playing frisbee at the park, if we used a white frisbee against the trees in the background, it was really easy to pick out. But when it was a red frisbee, I would lose it, and I couldn't pick it up. And that's colorblindness.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned about like the red and green of trees and stuff like that, because red is not a super common color seen in nature. So most people would be like, oh, it's, you're in the nature colors of the greens, the browns, the more browns, the dirt, the green, gray, the more dirt, like, the dirt colors, the dirt family of colors. But and red would pop out and contrast that, and like regardless of colorblindness, you'd be like, oh, you should be able to see that. But that's not necessarily the case, and it's not necessarily the case that, well, a lot of pretty colors show up in nature. Blue specifically is super rare in nature. There's some birds and like butterflies. Butterflies are super cool, but like it's still a very rare thing to see in nature.
Well, I think like in nature, okay, so that's kind of an evolutionary question, right? So why are animals like always like the same, like They're all the
Yeah,
same
but,
color.
but flowers aren't, which is super interesting. Now that we pointed out, like roses have like 1,700 different colors they could be. You have a bunch of different vibrant colors that are popping and showing up in nature when nature itself, animals, foliage like trees, dirt as well, dirt colored. Outside of the birds and butterflies, there's not a lot of that brightness, that popping,
Well,
that shine.
I think that's evidence that the insects can see color. Because if they couldn't, then what's the benefit to the flowers being different colors? There's no evolutionary benefit to that. I think that animals are the dirt. We call them the dirt colors, the earth colors, like a deer in the woods. We've talked about these before, right? The white deer that are in.
Oh yes,
We have.
yes.
The white deer that are in Brentwood. That's not a real good evolutionary track to be a white deer. Okay, so most deer are like they camouflage in because if other animals can see you, then they can eat you. And the only part of most deer that is white is their tail, right? And that only shows up when, Zach?
When they're laughing at you as they run away.
As they run away, right? So I think that you can be colorful if you can survive by escaping. And I think that's why birds are colorful. Look at all the South American parrots and all the bluebirds and all that kind of stuff. They can get away. But if you are a sparrow and you spend your life on the ground and hanging out in the bushes in the dirt, you're going to be the same color as the bushes and the dirt.
I mean, you might have like some red show up, that muted red color, maroon-ish flavor color, whatever you want to call it. But like additionally too, but flowers are very colorful, and we like flowers. And
yes,
we also like the things that pollinate flowers. I do. We could talk about this for days. Well, I'm derailing this conversation we're having on color.
We talked about bees. What episode was the bees? We had Kyle on here.
Yeah,
right?
But we can talk more about bees, is what I'm saying.
I would like to talk more about bees. Maybe we'll have to get Kyle back and see how things are shaping up for this spring, because the bees are. If you ever want to do something really fun, go study some bees. All right, you know what? We should get more people with bees. I'll tell you what. Here's Zach. I'm going to propose this. I know we haven't talked about it. You provide us evidence that you are doing bees. We will send you free Bufnagle episodes. That's what we're going to do.
Oh, no, I have a better idea. Bufnagle honey.
Oh, nice. Can you do that in your apartment? Can you put a beehive outside? Is there anything in your covenants that prevent you from putting beehive?
I will look into that, and then I will legal law school education my way into getting a bee station thing. Beehive. Or I have a better idea is I'll find a friend who has a house, and then I will rent a small part of their yard to have a little beehive. And then I
know a friend of yours that has a house.
I have multiple friends of mine who have a house.
Okay, this is a real thing. Okay,
yeah, I have a bad idea, and we're gonna go with it.
All right, so there we are.
So next week we'll update and then
let you know how the beehives are coming. All right, so Zach, this was supposed to be a 1 episode topic. I'm thinking.
You thinking I derailed it too much?
No. This is great. Okay, so
but back to the nature and the flowers. Flowers are bright and colorful because bees, they need to see the color to figure out like the things they need to pollinate, the things that they're attracted to, the things they want to hang out with. Those bright, fun, playful colors attract that. Bees come after that. They pollinate the flowers. The flowers don't die. We get honey.
Bees don't die. Flowers don't fly. That's what do they call it? Symbiosis, right?
Yeah.
And then we just live off the fruits of that. And bees are remarkable things. And I think anything you can do with more bees is great. More flowers, great. More honey, great. More podcasts, great. All right, okay, think about the first things. Like, there's 2 things I did as a little kid with color. 2 real things I did with color. Okay, I did watercolor paints. Right? Did you do watercolors?
I remember so.
You had the little tray and had the brush in it, and you flip it open. There's 8 little things there, and you always had a cup of water.
You mix them all together, and eventually your colors ended up being not the same. Well, not different.
Yeah, if you're not careful, I think some of my kids were less careful than others. But
what are you trying to say about me?
I'm not saying anything about you.
I feel like you're saying something about me. Air your grievances.
We will have feats of strength. That's Festivus, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So so we had watercolors, and then the other thing we had that were colorful was Play-doh.
Oh.
You remember that? Did you ever do much Play-doh?
Yeah, but like I was thinking like crayons and color pencils. I do a lot of color pencils today. But
yeah, that's true. Oh, okay, so there's the way those colors. So we always learn this. Okay, you get red Play-doh, you get blue Play-doh, you get yellow Play-doh, right? And you take the red Play-doh and you mix it with the blue Play-doh, and you get purple Play-doh. All right, and I was like, I remember being a kid. The one that blew my mind was you take yellow, which is like this color of, like you said, Zach, it's the color of fun, it's the color of flowers, it's color
vibrant, it's energetic.
And you take blue, which is like the ocean and some other thing, and you mix them together, you get green. Really, it blew my mind that was kind of like, I mean, I was a statistician way back then. You average yellow and blue, and you get green. It just blew my mind that green was hiding in between those two. But if you think about how those colors get to your eyes, you can see where that comes from. Okay, so you got yellow. Okay, you got Roy G Biv. You got the Y. Okay, the yellow piece. There's not like one color that's yellow. There's a whole piece of the spectrum that's kind of yellowy, and the pigments, the dyes that are in the Play-Doh produce that yellow color, but they are reflecting, right? So why is it yellow? It's yellow because the light that hits it is white. It comes from the sunlight. It comes from your lamp. It comes from somewhere. It has all those colors in it. The yellow light gets reflected back to you, right? So all those colors in the spectrum that make up the yellow, they come back to you. Okay, that's the yellow Play-Doh. The blue Play-Doh is doing the same thing. The light's hitting it, but the yellow gets absorbed there in the blue Play-Doh, and the bluish colors come back.
Shines it out, and you get to see that.
You get to see it. So now when you take the yellow and the blue together, well, you're blocking everything but the yellow. You're blocking everything but the blue, and the intersection of those where they join up, that's the green, right? Roy G Biv, or maybe it's going to be Ray G Biv here in a little bit, right? But Roy G Biv, okay, and so the G is between the, right? That's why that comes through, all right? So that is called a subtractive color model, and the idea is that the pigments in the thing you're looking at, in the Play-Doh or in the paint, they reflect certain colors and absorb the other ones, right? And notice what happens when you're playing with the watercolors. When you're done, you have that little cup of water, you rinse them out. Eventually that just turns into what? This little
blackness that looks like it belongs in nature.
That's right. It's that earth. We used to call it, we had a name for that color. We called it something like muddy, yucky brown.
I think is what we called it. Mud.
Yeah, it just starts looking like mud. So the real trick to understanding all of this stuff is to know that white light has all the colors inside it, right? And our friend Isaac Newton figured out some things about this light, okay? He figured out that white light has all the colors, and you can get the colors out by sending the light through a prism, and refraction, light refracts when it changes media, right? When it goes from air to glass, it bends, all right? When it goes from water to air, it bends, right? And the different wavelengths bend different amounts. That's why when it goes through a prism, changes medium, and what comes out now, it's bent, and those different pieces are spread out. And he figured out
that diagram is pictured on Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album.
There you go. If you're listening to Pink Floyd and your parents are like, turn that off, you're like, I'm studying Newton, dude, right? And then you can get away with that stuff. But no, you're exactly right. That's what it is. And he did that. And then he took the light that came out, the individual colors, and he ran those through the prism, all right? And since it's all the same color, that didn't bend at all. I mean, it bent, but they all bent the same amount, all right? And then he found out if you bend them back to line them up, and you project all those different colors onto the same spot, then you get white, all right? So you can take white apart, make colors, and then you can put the colors back together, and you get white light. Okay, that's called additive color model, right? So you have to know how both of those things work together. Now, Newton, okay, when was Isaac Newton? Late 1600s? Okay, Newton, okay, we have to do a thing on Newton, right? Because one summer when the plague...
Because he just decided to hang out underneath an apple tree and invented science and gravity.
That's exactly what it is.
He invented it.
He invented gravity. All right, he came to the realization the apple fell down. He was like, why doesn't it fall sideways? Right? What is it that makes it go down? And he realized that whatever it is that making it go down is the same thing that keeps the moon from flying away.
Yes.
It's the same thing that keeps the Earth from flying away from the sun. All right. And in order to describe those mechanical things, he
You have
needed
to be really, really, really smart.
Well, and you have to invent some new math. Okay. So while the plague was raging in London, he was like, I'm taking the summer off. I'm going to hang out with my mom up there, up north. And while I'm up there, I'm going to work on this planet thing. I think I'll be inventing calculus. I'll see you guys in the fall. All right. So, I mean, that's pretty much that's what he did. What'd you do over your summer vacation, Isaac? Because
What did you do during COVID? Well, I invented new way to do math.
Well, think about that, Zach, with your COVID thing. Everybody's complaining that, I'm stuck at home. What'd you do? It's like, well, I read 16 books and I wrote a treatise on optics and I started a pot. Or you can say, I binge watched Netflix. Really?
I did eat a lot of donuts. COVID,
yeah.
So,
Yeah. But you worked them off, but you went to the gym, right?
Yeah. Well, early COVID, when everything was shut down, I worked them off in my living room. And then I would go eat more donuts because they were there. What am I going to do?
Where'd you get donuts? Were those giant donuts we got that time?
No, well, it depends. There's that's like a tier 2.5 at best donut place in the cities.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Next time you're here, we can go to a top tier. Yeah. Anyways, I could talk about donuts all day long. And
all right. So what did you do to your summer vacation? I invented calculus. Okay, that's what Newton did. So anytime light goes through, it changes its medium. All right. When it passes through like a prism, or it passes from water into air, or it goes through a droplet of rain, you get like a rainbow. You get to see this prism because the different frequencies bend different amounts when they change their medium. Okay. So subtractive color means that the pigments are the color you see because all the other colors have been absorbed and they've only released that one. And then additive colors, when you add the light sources together. So remember I talked earlier about the candle doesn't reflect the light. The candle produces the light. It's producing a distribution of colors that you see. All right. It's producing a distribution. And if you are like a star and you're like doing all sorts of like star chemistry stuff, then what's inside you to make the light, we can figure out what that is by looking at the spectrum of the light that's coming from you. And I haven't written that one up, Zach, but based upon the chemicals that are in you and where those little electrons are going back and forth, you'll get different colors. So, yeah. All right. So subtractive color model. Here's something I learned doing this, Zach. Okay, we talk about the color wheel. We got red, blue, and yellow on the wheel, and halfway between red and blue is purple, and halfway between blue and yellow we talked about is green. Yep. And halfway between red and orange, or red and yellow, is orange. All right, and that made good sense to me.
But there's halfways between the halfways as well.
There are. Okay, it's just like north, south, east, west, and northeast and southwest, and then there's south, southeast, and east, southeast. Okay, the same thing happens on the. All right, so you have like between purple and red. Okay, I would say it would be like purple red or red purple. All right, but there's a color in there called magenta.
Yep.
Okay, and between blue and purple is violet.
Yep.
All right. Between green and blue is teal.
Yep.
All right. Between green and yellow is
yellow.
No, it's chartreuse. All right. Now, okay. Between yellow and orange is amber. Okay. So if we change Roy G Biv to Ray G Biv, we can put amber in there instead of orange. We can say red, amber, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. We get Ray G Biv and we can get Ray Charles something.
Interesting. Okay, well, fun fact.
Yeah.
The color orange or the fruit orange, I forget which one, but like the...
Nothing rhymes with orange?
Nothing rhymes with orange. That's also true. But the term orange refers to the fruit and not the color. The color is named after the fruit.
I've heard that, and most oranges are actually green.
Yes, and they are sprayed
with a thing to make them orangey,
to make them look orange, so that you go to the store and you get the orange.
Now, you used to work in the produce section.
Yes, you can actually tell depending on when they come in that there's something on them.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that leaves us one color, Zach, between orange and red, and this blew me away. I'd forgotten this was really a color.
Red orange?
No, vermilion.
Ooh.
All right. So next time you really want to impress friends at a party, get something that's kind of red orangey. Like, I don't know what that'd be. It's like passion fruit, that color, maybe.
Dragon
Maybe
fruit?
it's dragon fruit, might be
No, dragon fruit's
vermilion.
probably more magenta.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway,
But again, that's
vermilion.
fun. Okay, sorry, I'm going to derail
Yeah.
this a little bit and talk
Really,
about
that'll be new.
fruits are those bright colors. You got raspberries, you got strawberries, you got bananas. Are those those bright, colorful, playful colors that you see that we like. Dragon fruit looks super cool, is magenta, but it tastes really bad, and
Okay,
it has
but
a cool name. Most
but
disappointing thing ever.
okay. Let me ask you this. Remember, we said that animals are like the dirty earth colors, so that they don't get eaten. Okay, why then are fruits bright colors, Zach?
So that you want to eat them.
So you want to eat them, so you eat them, and you carry their seeds with you for a while, and then you deposit those seeds later.
And then they make more things for you to eat later.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so subtractive color. We got the color wheel. Okay, now I named some colors here. There's a lot of different colors. You do like the history of the color wheel, and there's a zillion different ways people have put that together, right? And we're talking here about subtractive color, the red, yellow, blue model. But there's another model that printers use, all right, where those primary colors, okay, those are called primary colors, red, yellow, blue, right? And then those other ones are secondary colors, and there's tertiary colors, and quaternary colors, penitentiary colors. Bufnagle colors, right? But there's also the ones printer use they use what's called a CMYK, which stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and K is for black. Right. So what they do is they put those colors in there and they mix it with black to darken it. So if you really want, so that's how they work. But it's the same general principle. Yeah. Is those that are reflecting the colors. Okay.
And then there's also, you see this a lot if you do like, I'm going to say animation, but if you do a lot of stuff with computer imaging stuff, you get into the red, blue, yellow wheel of mixing those together. Is it red, blue, yellow? No.
No. RGB, red, green, blue.
Oh yeah, red, green.
Okay.
What am I thinking of?
Yeah, you were thinking of the other color wheel.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the subtractive color wheel.
Yeah.
Okay, the additive color wheel, all right, is one that we use in computers. Okay, and this, like for the longest time, Zach, I was programming computers in SAS and doing different colors, and they'd have these 6-letter codes for these colors. I'm like, what the hell are these codes? And so I looked it up, and there's actually a rhyme to this. Okay, so here's how this works.
It's called hexidecimal.
Okay, we're going to use some hexadecimal codes. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. RGB stands for red, green, blue. And we're going to have, those are not subtractive, they're additive. So we're going to have some red, we're going to have some blue, and we're going to have some green. And when we mix them, if we turn them all on fully, turn those lights on fully, we're going to get white.
Yep. If
we turn them all off, we're going to get black.
Yep.
Okay, and if we want red light, we turn red all the way on and green and blue off. If you want green, you turn the green on, the other two off. If you want blue, you turn the blue on, the other one's off. Okay. If you want light red, like pink, what you do is you turn the red on, and then you turn the other two like up halfway or so, because they're pushing. Remember, when they're all on, it's going to be white. So if you pull those other two down halfway or pull them up halfway, the red stays. Right. So you're going to get like whitish red, which is pink. Okay. So what you can do is, for black, okay, so these colors range from 0 to 100%, right? But if you're a computer guy, you can't go 0 to 100 because we don't work in base 10. We work in base 2 or base 16. We're going to get that in a second. But you go from 0 to 255. And the reason you go to 255 is because 255 is 2 to the 8th. And there are 8 bits in a byte. Okay? So if you have one byte with 8 characters, there's 255 different ways you can have those on and off. Right? So the red goes all the way from 0 to 255, the green 0 to 255, the blue from 0 to 255. So if you have red at 255 and the other two at 0, you just get red. Okay? If you want yellow, you turn red to 255, you turn the green to 255, and you leave the blue off, and you're going to get yellow. And you can do this right on your computer, Zach. You open up, I think it's Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, one of those guys, and when you pick your font color, you can go to like other colors, right? And they will allow you to type in the numbers there for the color of the font that you want. Or you can use the chooser, but you're like, I'm thinking, I want control over all these colors. I want to really know.
Also, like when you have that control, you can determine the model you want to use. You can use HSL, which is a hue
saturation and
illumination.
Maybe it's lemonade.
Or you could do the default Ray green blue.
Can you do Ray green blue?
Yeah, red
green blue.
Yeah. There's also this option called hex though, and there's a number, the number sign, and then 6 open characters.
Okay, so here's where that comes from. Okay, so remember, we're going to have 255 for the red, 0 to 255, 0 to 255 for green, and 0 to 255 for blue. Okay, and we know that if you turn, like, for example, you turn the red all the way off, and the green all the way on, and the blue all the way on, you're going to get cyan. Okay, and if you turn the red all the way on, and the blue all the way on, and the green all the way off, you're going to get magenta. And you turn them all on, and you're going to get white. Okay, so now, what you're going to do is you're going to take that 255, and because it would require 8 binary digits to cover that 255, we're going to work instead in hexadecimal. Right? So instead of going zeros and ones, we're going to go 0 all the way to 16, or so 0 to 15, right? 16 different states. And we're going to put 1 digit for each one. So you need digits, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we're going to add 6 other digits. We're going to call them A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay? So that's 0 through 16, the 0 to 15, and then, boom, you carry over the 1, you put a 1 and a 0, that's 16. A 1 and a 1 is 17. A 1 and an F is 31. And to get to 32, you put a 2 and a 0. So if you do that, you can count all the way to 255 with just 2 digits. Okay? And what you can do is you can specify those 2 digits, 2 for red, 2 for green, 2 for blue. So if you go FF, 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 that's everything all the way on, all red, all green, all blue. That's going to be white. It gives you white. And you turn 00, 00, 00, 00, that's going to be black. And if you go 00, FF, 00, that's going to be green. Right? And then you can play with those things in between. And then if you want, you can have your computer pick your favorite color by running those things through different levels. Now, if you go only halfway between 0, 0 and FF is 8, 0. So you can turn them on halfway. You can get grays. You can get shades of all your other things. All right? That's how your computer works. It makes those little dots of light. Okay? If you are a painter in the late 1800s, you might want to do what's called pointilism. And you can say, I'm going to use this science and then put little tiny drops of paint on the canvas in these primary additive colors. And when the light they reflect, Zach, is going to be a light source, and your eye is going to interpret that collection of colors as a color. So when you're up close to it, it's going to be a bunch of dots. But when you back away, you might see, for example,
picture.
You might see Sunday afternoon on the island of Jatte, which is by this French guy named Georges Seurat in the late 1800s. And my friend Jeremy Moody, back, about a decade ago, made a Lego version of that painting using the little 1x1 round dots and using, because since they're round, Zach, they leave a little gap between them. He used the color between them and the color on them to do a Lego version of Sunday afternoon on the island of Grande, Jatte, and he blew everybody away. It was like the greatest Lego thing anybody's ever had. So, Zach, that's what I know about color.
Well, that's it. Some of the things you know about color. We know a lot more, but color is fun. Color is vibrant. Color is necessary. Color does a lot of things in fun, artistic ways. It's more than just like painting things. You can use it in fun, creative ways to create more than the sum of its part. And that's the beauty of all of these things we talked about. So, as always, I want to thank you all for listening. I want to go remind you to go seek the good, be the good, and spread the good. Enjoy the adventure of life.